Good evening, folks, and welcome to yet another episode of the ARCA Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Colby Evans, aka Startin' Parker on Twitter. We had a fun this weekend, this past weekend at the Las Vegas Bullring, not the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, the little short track that's just outside the backstretch. It was the ARCA West Series in action. The ARCA Main Series, of course, a couple weeks ago finished up their Main Series schedule, but we still got a couple of West Series races. So as for now, the ARCA Racing Podcast continues, at least for another 2 episodes. But of course, welcome to today's show. Again, not a very big show today, just going over the West race, talking some 2023 plans possibly for the ARCA series and what the 2022 fall race at Phoenix might look like as well. And of course, announcing our next giveaway, which I believe will be pretty popular. Of course, you guys know the drill. Short little intro. Follow me on social media, Startin' Parker on Twitter. We just surpassed 4,000 followers, so I want to thank you guys again for that support. Like and subscribe to the channel. We just hit 540 subs. Again, we'll be announcing a giveaway very shortly. And of course, check out theracingexperts.com for all ARCA NASCAR related content. Brock Beard, NASCAR man, give them a follow on Twitter as well. Those are some of my great friends, and they deserve support as well. So let's get right into it, guys. The Star Nursery 150 at the Las Vegas Bullring, one of my favorite tracks on the ARCA West circuit. And if the haul wasn't so bad, especially in these times, I wish the main series could go to the Las Vegas Bullring. I absolutely do. Same with the truck series. A lot of people have advocated for the truck series to switch their date from Las Vegas to the Bullring. I 100% agree with that. The truck series, their mile-and-a-half program really hasn't gotten very much better. If anything, it's kind of gotten worse, in my opinion. And I actually feel that the Las Vegas Bullring would be a much better race. I don't know what your guys' take on that, but the Las Vegas Bullring, I feel like, is a very, very underrated short track. And I think it's just because it gets overshadowed a lot because, of course, the 1.5 miler is literally right next to it. So it gets overshadowed a lot, in my opinion. Molten Rage in the chat. What's your opinion on Brendan Poole being the JD Motorsports? So that is actually Molten Rage for tomorrow. I guess we can announce this right now with qualifying now having DNQs for both races, Xfinity and Truck. Backmarker battles will be returning tomorrow, and we will be going over all that. So Molten Rage, join me tomorrow for that. This is ARCA tonight, but we will be doing a backmarker battles tomorrow, and I will answer that question tomorrow. So moving on to that. We had a very solid entry list, arguably just the biggest West Series entry list standard event that they had this season. Of course, we had the big Phoenix race, but that was a combo race, so I don't count that. I don't count that race. Other than that, the biggest West Series field we had seen this season was 24 cars, and that was at Sonoma. Of course, that time we see a couple of Cup drivers usually entering in that race. So that's kind of why maybe the field was extended a little bit. But great to see this field of cars, even without the 2 Pedroncelli entries. We were still at 26, which I think shows just how strong the series still is compared to like the East Series and even the main division too. I mean, we literally at one point ran 13 cars in a sanctioned race this season. And here we are now at 26. And I think it's just kind of what we've seen out of the ARCA series for a lot of years. When it comes to full-time cars, there's never really been that many. And I think we can look back at the ARCA series, even going back to the K&N series era. Never really was there so many full-time teams, but rather the series was made up, I would say, almost entirely of part-time efforts. But they ran so many races that it felt like full-time teams. Does that make sense to you guys? Because I feel like that's what we saw for a lot in ARCA and in the then K&N series in the early to mid 2010s before the part-time teams really started to die off after the late 2010s and now we're into the 2020s, especially after the pandemic. But yeah, so a great field of cars. Looking at this, I only saw maybe 1 or 2 starting parks, that being the 39 of Tuttle and maybe, just maybe, Vince Little, but I didn't see them parking. But yeah, 26 cars, a lot of, excuse me right there, a lot of notable entries. We had David Gilliland Racing. DGR was here for this one-off race. Obviously, kind of just for fun effort. the Truck Series has taken a massive break. Not really a fan of these big gaps in the schedule, so kind of gives the ARCA program time to shine. Taylor Gray in the 71. Reason why is because the MMI racing team hold rights to the 17 number first, so that's why they get to use the number. And unfortunately, DGR has to revert to the 71. I'm going to botch his name, so just if I botch his name, don't get mad at me, guys. But Andres Perez de Lara in the 51, he ran a career race, in my opinion. I think really shocked a lot of people, including myself, with how well he ran. Other notable entries, Katie Hettinger was in the 02 for Young's Motorsports. Jacob Smith made his debut in the 5. Tyler Reff, Tanner Reff's brother, made his debut. Nick Jonades in the PP1 Motorsports team, they were back with the 77. And most notably, in my opinion, was mother-daughter combination, Bridget and Sarah Burgess, two badasses going up against each other. And I know this might be an easy question to answer, but I just want to be sure I'm correct. Is that the very first mother-daughter combination to ever race an ARCA? I want to say yes, because I don't believe we've ever seen that. And frankly, I don't think we ever will see that ever again. But I thought that was just the coolest thing. You know, Sarah tried to make her first start earlier this season, I believe at Irwindale. She was going to drive a second Eric Nascimento entry, the 04, as a starting park. Unfortunately, I don't believe she made a lap in that car. She didn't start the race, I know that. So I don't think that technically counted as her first start, which is a shame. But at the same time, I'm glad that Sarah's first real start in this series was actually a full race effort. And of course, the sponsorship was there too. Great to see Burgess racing with a second car after, you know, Bridget's been having to do most of the season, if not the entire season, on one car. So it's great to see that they've gotten more equipment. And although they might be a backmarker team, they're definitely making improvement. They definitely got the sponsorship. And that's the great thing to see, that even this backmark organization has a lot of sponsorship. And I really think Bridget's very marketable. She's a very marketable lady. She's actually very talented behind the wheel. If you look at her off-road racing truck career, like, you know, I don't want to make comparisons, but she really has done a lot of the same stuff that maybe Hailie Deegan has done. She's driven an off-road racing truck. She's found success in off-road racing trophy trucks. I won't say she's the same, but she's very similar, in my opinion, to Hailie Deegan, and I think she could reach the same levels of success. She just needs better equipment. I think she just needs more mainstream. I think if she got into the main ARCA division, she could be more marketable. But with the West Series not having any races on TV except for the combo race, it's kind of hard for Bridget to get that kind of attention. Because, you know, I really think, I mean, it did get picked up by NASCAR.com that Bridget and Sarah were running this race together, but I really feel like we missed the, I don't know what that quote is, like missed the ball or something like that. I don't know what that quote is, but I feel like we really had a missed opportunity to really do something special here. You know, they did a media call with both Sarah and Bridget. You know, even Pockrass tweeted about it. But, man, I really feel like we needed more TV coverage about this. And I know ARCA West races aren't televised. But, man, for this race specifically, I feel like just because we have that specialness, NASCAR really should have tried their best to get this race on TV. Because obviously, you know, Charlie Crow, he can hold his own in the booth. He's a great commentator. For doing it by himself, he does hold himself very well. And I understand why. I understand why they don't. But, man, I feel like we really missed the boat on getting this race more public exposure, because it was a huge deal for the ARCA fan base to have a mother-daughter combination with two legit talented drivers. You know, Sarah Burgess, she's no slouch at all. She's also a very talented driver in the off-road racing ranks as well. So that was kind of my big excitement for this weekend, is seeing how they would both do. My only criticism for the Burgess team, I hate the quarter panel numbers. I don't know what you guys think, but with all due respect to their team, I hate the quarter panel numbers. I've never liked them, even going back to when they were introduced in the K&N series days. I I never liked him. I just don't like the look of it. I don't even like the current number style that Cup runs now, with the number move forward. So that's just kind of me. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I think the cars would look a lot better if the number was on the door. But that's my only criticism. Other than that, I love everything that the Burgess team was doing this weekend. So yeah, sorry, I got really off topic there. I just really wanted to talk about, the Burgess team and how impressive that was. But I really wish NASCAR had went full bore and more into this. It was also great hearing that, Kurt Busch was going to be there along with Brendan Gaughan, two people, who raced the West Circuit for a long, long time. Kurt more of the Southwest Circuit, the late model circuit, rather than the actual Winston West Circuit. So definitely good to see that the Cup driver feels. Obviously, Brendan Gaughan, South Point, they bring a lot of sponsorship for these events at Las Vegas. So always good to see Brendan, fun character. But yeah, we'll move on to the practice qualifying session. Obviously, the way ARCA, the West Series, does it is they have a 90-minute practice qualifying session, which I really think is one of the best ways to do it. And it's something that I'm honestly at this point shocked that NASCAR has not adopted. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but especially with the next-gen car, a car that is so similar between practice and qualifying setups and race setups, it does kind of shock me that NASCAR has not adopted that system. I don't necessarily think that's a bad idea. A 90-minute practice qualifying session. That would give those teams plenty of time. 90 minutes is a long time, especially at the racetrack. It might not feel that long on TV, but at the racetrack, 90 minutes takes forever. And I would really be curious to see if NASCAR could try that. I don't know how that would work for the Truck Series. Maybe you could shorten that to an hour. But for like the Cup Series, do a 90-minute practice qualifying session all at the same time. Have guys lay down a flying lap and then have them practice qualifying or just practice race runs. I don't know how you guys would feel about that, but I'm really shocked that NASCAR has not adopted that system and that even the main series, ARCA series, has not adopted that system because I really like that idea. I don't know. I just like that idea. I really, really do. But yeah, going into practice, I was picking, the DGR team to be competitive, and boy, were they. They swept the top two positions. Taylor Gray swept the pole handedly, well over his teammate, Perez de Lara, by well over 0.2 of a second. And, at a track that small, 0.2 of a second, Taylor clearly showed he was going to be the car to beat, and we're going for 2 straight wins. Still impressive, though, I will say, by Andres. And just his second start in that type of a car to go out there and qualify second against, the big league teams of the ARCA West Series. Landon Lewis was third. Taylor Reff was fourth. Kyle Keller was fifth. And then most notably, championship contender. And he could have clinched the championship this weekend, which he did. Jake Drew did clinch the championship this weekend. Jake Drew started all the way down in 7th. So it looked like for the first time this season that Sunrise Ford Racing may not get the win because they didn't even no cars in the top 3. And I don't know when's the last time we didn't see any of the Sunrise Ford cars in the top 3. That was quite shocking. Other notable entries, Joey East down in 8th, Cole Morway down in 10th. Todd Souza way down in 16th. Did not expect that. Todd's had a rough second part of the season. With his family-owned efforts, they just don't have that funding there and the sponsorship really there to go up against the big level teams. So that sucks, but he was only 16th. Bridget was 21st. Sarah was down in 23rd. Again, I give Sarah a pass. It was her first start, so you don't expect her to be very fast out of the gate. And, of course, Chris Loudon was slowest in 26th. Obviously, with that being qualifying, we move on to the race. And the race was very action-packed to begin with. Like I said, we had 26 cars, big field of cars on this very small 0.375 mile track. I believe, what is that, 3/8 mile track? So a lot of action going to happen, and it happened early. Taylor quickly took the green flag on the initial stretch, pulled out to a decent-sized lead, well over a second over Andres. Andres, he had to hold his own for second because he was starting to get eaten alive by guys like Landon Lewis, guys like Kyle Keller. Kyle Keller, shout out to Kyle Keller and that team. With their initial efforts not working out in the beginning of the season, moving into that partnership with Jerry Pitts, and it's really gotten more speed the longer they've gotten. But yeah, while Andres was starting to fall from about second to about fourth, Taylor was pulling out to an early lead. We had our first caution on lap 10. The Eric Nascimento team has had really kind of a rough last couple of races. The 4 of Sean Hingorani stopped on the front stretch, and I really wasn't sure why. The reason listed as out of the race was because of a handling issue, not because of an engine. I don't know if that's just because they picked a different setup, or not like setup, picked a different reason, but I would more figure that was due to an engine failure, not actually a handling issue. Also, the car before that, the 39 of Andrew Tuttle, start and part, he pulled off. Andrews had a tough go as of late, blew the motor at Portland during qualifying, and they showed up to Roseville. I don't even know if the car was able to start. They got their practice lap in. Very, very slow. I think he's just trying to make it to the end of the season. Poor Andrews had a rough season, really rough season, and it only made 4 laps before he pulled off this time. So I think Andrew's just trying to make it through the season, and then hopefully we'll be back again in 2023 because, with how low budget Last Chance Racing is, it's not like they have a spare motor to throw in immediately. So pretty much whatever's wrong with that the motor they got in right now, they just got to deal with it. They got to deal with it and repair it and hope it sticks. And unfortunately, it's just not. So it sucks for Andrew, but we know he'll be at Phoenix, but likely that will be a start and park effort as well, just to keep him inside the points. So at that point, we already lost a couple cars. We really haven't had a chance to get out of the box. A couple of cars did go a lap down. The 97 of Burgess was the free pass. Again, I was going to give her a pass tonight, no matter how kind of slow she was. Maybe, it was her first race. So you got to give her a pass at least for her first race. Got back green again. And again, really didn't get a chance to get out of the box. 2 laps later, we had another caution. And it was during that first caution period that the 99 of Cole Moore shockingly went a lap down. He would get the free pass on this next caution as the 02 of Katie Hedinger and the 11 of Chris Loudon would crash in turn 3. Now, I didn't really see a replay of the crash. I kind of missed it because I went to go grab something to eat, and I come back and there's 2 crashed cars, and I'm like, dang, Loudon can just not catch a break. That is 2 crashed cars early. And the weird part is, if you watch the Burgess crash from Roseville, All-American, it's almost the exact same crash. I think the 02 spun out, and the 11 just piled right into her. I don't think Chris. Now again, you could say ARCA brakes, but at the end of the day, I watched the replay of the crash. Chris really had nowhere to go. You're flying into that corner at 70, 80, 90 miles per hour. It's hard to avoid. When you have 3 to 4 seconds to avoid, a lot of people can criticize drivers, but at the end of the day, when you're right there in the heat of the moment, sometimes your mind doesn't pick it up quick enough to make those moves. And I feel bad for Blue Valor Risky Racing and Chris Loudon. It's a great team. It's a great team name. One of my favorite team names in all of racing. I think it's a cool name, cool looking car. The Blue Valor Whiskey sponsorship has gone up to the point where now they can run 2 cars. The 21, I believe, will also be at Phoenix as well with RJ Smotherman. And it was also a special weekend because with Tyler Ref, Tanner's brother, they were running a 3rd entry, which was not fielded by Blue Valor Whiskey Racing, and was instead fielded in a conjunction effort with Chris Loudon and someone else. It was Loudon Jackson Motorsports. So yeah, it was really a kind of a tough start to the night. What would be a really long night for Chris Loudon, as we'll get to in a second. But yeah, it really sucks for Loudon wrecking a car, and for Katie Henninger. Long haul for Young's Motorsports all the way from North Carolina. long haul from North Carolina for Young's Motorsports just to wreck in 15 laps. So hopefully Kate Hanger will get another opportunity down the line because, she really didn't get a chance to show what she had tonight. Not at all. I mean, 15 laps, and most of that was run under caution. I can imagine the frustration was probably pretty high because you really didn't get a chance to show what you got. And, like I said, it's been a rough season for Chris. You look at the results of the 11 car, speed's there. The speed is there, but they just can't seem to have any luck. So we know Chris will be at Phoenix, of course, and the 21, I believe, also will be at Phoenix. And it looks like down in the chat, they say that Henninger will also be at Phoenix. Great. I figured as so because the truck series will be there anyway. So why not bring the ARCA car? So it just sucks for them. And it really also sucked that we lost 4 cars already by lap 16. And it's kind of like the funny part whenever we get a big field, we always lose a lot of cars right in the beginning of the race. And then we kind of stabilize at around 16 to 17. It's kind of like I don't know. I've always noticed that happening. But with the field now thinned down to 22 cars, it kind of gave, maybe some insight. Okay, maybe we'll start to get some laps in. Well, that still did not happen. Even on the next restart, Taylor Gray again. Reason why I'm not talking about Taylor is because he was just dominating, pulling away every restart. They just could not even get up to him at all. No matter how hard the 16 of Lewis tried, the 51 of Perez de Lara tried, or any like Cole Moore, Kyle Keller, Buddy Shepard, they just could not get to him. And by the end of turn 2 on the restart lap, his 71 was gone. So he ran another 10 laps, lapped more cars. Got to say, I feel bad for Vince Little. They're trying to finish out the season in that 85 car. I tried to post a picture of it, but I couldn't find a clear enough image. That 85 car is pretty used up. They got a new nose on the car. Keep in mind, the Vince Little car, that is actually the car that they bought from Kyle Keller's old team. That car was supposed to be driven by Kyle Keller this season, and Vince has literally driven that car everywhere, short tracks and road courses. The car is pretty beat up. You can tell it's beat up. I'm not saying they slide by in tech, but obviously for these lower budget teams, they've even done that for us in the past. When I worked with Peterson, obviously our car was not perfect, but they kind of just let us slide by the scales as long as we had the correct weight. They usually just let us by, but Vince's car was pretty beat up, man. It was beat up after this race too. I hope he's still at Phoenix, but they're gonna have to do a lot of work to that car to get it ready for next season. He tried to, I think he tried to sell, because I remember I posted that on Twitter that he did try to sell it. I'm not sure if it actually sold or if Vince still owns it, but yeah, that was one thing I noticed too. So we ran 10 more laps. A couple cars again went a lap down, and then we had another caution. The 13 of Todd Souza spun. This would continue his long night. We were able to get that green going again, lap 49. Another 16-lap run, our longest green flag run of the night so far, 16 laps in. The 97 of Sarah Burgess went for her first spin of the night. Again, no real contact on the first one. Didn't involve contact. The second one did. Again, I give Sarah a pass. You're trying to stay ahead of the leaders. You're back on the lead lap, and unfortunately, sometimes you just push it too hard. So I give her a pass for the first race because, again, she's a rookie, and she's just trying to get her feet wet. 85 again of Vince Little was the free pass. This actually put all remaining cars back on the lead lap. After this, we would have our longest green flag run of the, I believe, actually the entire race of just 23 laps. And a very odd incident actually would bring up the next caution. On lap 92, the 21 of RJ Smotherman and the 7 of Takuma Koga both brought out the caution, but not for an on-track crash. The 7 of Takuma Koga had stalled in the infield, while the 21 of RJ Smotherman had blown a motor. So it's kind of weird. Both cars brought out cautions for stalled cars, but they weren't involved with each other. So it's kind of weird. Sucks for Takuma Koga. That team, the Jerry Pitts team, has had a rough go the last couple of races with some crashes and mechanical failures. And And for RJ, it's only his third start. He had that great top 10 run at All-American, and I know they were going to try to improve on that. And again, so like I said, the 11 of Loudon crashed. The 21 loses an engine, so rough night for Blue Valley Whiskey Racing. They just can't seem to put any momentum together. So by this point, we had lost 2 more cars, and they would pretty much be the final retirees up until the very end of the race. At this point, we had also had some issues within the back of the field. The 42 of Amber Slagle, she was on and off the track. They would show the car a couple times on camera. She had a lot of damage to the front of the car. So I'm not sure if there was any suspension issues because she was on and off pit road multiple times. And same with the 05 of David Smith. He was also on and off pit road multiple times. They would return to the track about 20 and 18 laps down. Or about 30 and 18 laps down. And they were just trying to make it to the flag as well. So we definitely had some, again, battles going on in the back of the field that really affected a lot of people, unfortunately. It was at this point, though, we also had our first break. Not the first break coming up, but we had a series of short runs that just we just couldn't get anything going. I mean, as much as I do enjoy these short track racing, I'm not going to lie. It is a little frustrating when we just can't seem to put runs together, more than 5 laps. And I understand, that's just the nature of short track racing with rookie drivers. But if I could say one of my few criticisms of short track racing is when you only run 2 laps of green and then 6 laps of caution, I don't know. I don't really like that part. It was also at this point where the people of Flow Racing got tuned into something that I thought was pretty cool. And, I could tell just by listening to it, he was having the time of his life up there. Charlie Crawl initially called the start of the race with Brendan Gaughan. And about mid-race was joined by none other than Kurt Busch, who unfortunately announced his full-time racing retirement due to the concussion crash from Pocono. So that was a shame. But Kurt Busch was there. Like I said, I said earlier in the show, he was there to, do the pre-race festivities of ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. And he was up there in the booth calling the race. And I got to tell you, Kurt Busch really does have a future as a commentator. If he really wants to do it, I know his heart is still set in racing, but Kurt Busch is a good commentator. I bet he really had no idea who any of these drivers were. And he was calling the race as if he knew every single person in the field by heart. His heart is really in there. And you could really tell he was not there to just collect a paycheck and go home. He was there to have fun. And man, you could tell in the smiles in his face, and the attitude of his voice as the race was going on, he was having fun. And that's what I was happy to see. He didn't sound bored. He didn't sound like he didn't want to be there. Kurt was having fun. And there's Charlie Crawl. He's just marking out. And I'm just laughing because I feel so happy for him. That's a legendary Cup driver just sitting right there next to you, and you get to call a race with him. That is awesome, man. Absolutely awesome, And just sidetrack, I never had a problem with Kurt Busch. I know a lot of people turned on him down in 2012. I was still a fan of his. He was never my top dog, but I never hated him. And, I was there for his win at Kansas. I hope that's not his last win, but God, it just sucks that we have to lose Kurt. He's only 44. He's still so young at the same time. He's got so much left in the tank, and I want to see Kurt. And I know it's a long shot. I know it is. But with Kurt running a part-time schedule, I hope one day he does return to his roots and run a West race. I think that'd be really cool if Kurt Busch would run an ARCA West Series event. I could see it. I don't know if you guys could, but I really could see it happening. I don't think Kurt would have a problem with it. It's just an ARCA West race. It's not like it's going to take 3 days to run. It's only 150 laps, which is about an hour and 30 minutes of racing. I could definitely see Kurt running the 97 in a ARCA West event down the line. It's just a matter of which one that would be and which track that would be. But I could easily see Kurt doing it. And I hope he does. It'd be great for the sport. So yeah, the race moved on. 2 laps later, we had another spin out for the 42 of Amber Schlegel. 4 laps later, we had another spin for the 97 of Sarah Burgess, her second spin. This time was actually due to contact on track. They didn't say who the car was, but the commentators did say that she had made contact with someone on track. So yeah, rough night for the ladies. The ladies, well, Bridget was doing fine. Sarah, yeah, she was having a tough time up there. But again, I give her a pass. It was her first start. And Amber Schlegel, it's like whenever she races, she just can't seem to buy a break. She does a great job. She can qualify very good, and she ran a great race at the Toledo race for the main series. But man, it's like she qualified 13th here. It's like she just couldn't get out of the box, getting beat and banged around and then having to go to the garage area to get something fixed. It's like you couldn't get out of the box. And it's just frustrating because, I really feel like the unsung heroes are people like Bridget Burgess and Amber Schlegel. They just need more marketable opportunities in the higher divisions of ARCA and, maybe even the truck series. I know that's pushing it right now. Bridget, you could say Bridget, maybe it's time for her to move up the ranks. After all, it's kind of weird to say, but this is her 3rd full season. Hard to believe it's been 3 full years for Bridget in the ARCA West series, but if the truck series comes out west, I think that's the problem with the truck series coming out west. They don't race any short tracks. And that's why I wish the truck series would run the Las Vegas Bullring, because I think what that would see is you would see a lot of these ARCA West teams maybe buy a truck or rent out a truck to run for that race. And that's where people like maybe we could see a Takuma Koga running that truck race at the Bullring. Bridget Burgess running that truck race at the Bullring. Todd Souza running the truck race at the Bullring. And that's why I really advocate for the truck series to run the Bullring. We would see so many unique entries and a lot of those ARCA West teams using that truck race as an opportunity to get their drivers and their sponsors some nationwide recognition, as that race would be broadcasted live on Fox Sports 1. So, I'm definitely one of the big advocators. I just don't see it happening, sadly, but I really hope it does. I hope the truck series drivers push for it, because I definitely think it would help the overall sport, and I'm sure it would draw a sellout crowd for sure. Yeah, Daniel in the chat, might upwards of 45 entries. I could see it, because there are so many ARCA West teams that would love to get their drivers some mainstream exposure. Because, let's face it, sadly, the ARCA West series, it's not promoted very well. The ARCA Menard Series Twitter account, they try their best. They try their best to promote these drivers, and they do a great job. But at the same time, you hear a guy like, like a Landon Lewis, guy like a Buddy Shepard, even a guy like Jesse Love is more recognizable than those two guys. And that's not taking anything away. Not taking anything away from guys like Buddy Shepard and guys like Landon Lewis. It's just that they're running a division that is not broadcasted on TV, and they just don't have the biggest social media followings. And that is, again, and that's nothing towards them. That's just how it's been for a long time, unfortunately. Let's face it, the biggest driver in the ARCA West series that has the biggest social media following really is Bridget Burgess. It really is. So yeah, the race continued. 8 laps later, the 77 would spin out of Nick Jonides. Again, no real issues. A lot of spins in this race, but no real wrecks, which is something I personally like seeing. I don't like seeing cars crash that much. 15 laps later, the 05 of David Smith would crash. It was actually during the 42 caution. We did have, for some reason, a scored different leader, as the 16 of Landon Lewis actually is credited with leading lap 105, but I don't believe that is correct. Unless I'm missing something, maybe the 16 beat the 71 to the line on the restart, which I could have seen that happening. And I guess in that retrospective, the 16 would have been credited with leading that lap. So I guess Taylor Gray really didn't lead flag to flag, I guess. But yeah, we're nearing down, closing the ending parts of the race here. 5 laps to go, 4 laps to go. 05 David Smith spins. So here we go, man. 2-lap shootout. Props to the ARCA West crew. They got it cleaned up. We didn't have to go into overtime for a 1-lap shootout. We were able to get in a 2-lap shootout. Unfortunately, we didn't get much in that 2-lap shootout. The 41 and the 99 of Colmore, obviously with ARCA's rules, you know, even on the white flag, if a caution comes out, we rack them up. Now, you could say that they didn't need to throw the caution, but at the end of the day, for the people who I guess didn't see it, the 41 did get turned into the outside wall right at the start-finish line. I can understand the reasoning by to throw a caution. You want to get Tyler out of there. You want to make sure he's okay and get that car removed from the front stretch just in case something else can happen. So I will warrant that as a legit caution. Kind of killed Cole Moore's day, really hurt him in the points, because after his win at All-American, he had jumped to second in the points. Unfortunately, due to this crash, he has now fallen, I believe, back to third. Anyway, despite the best efforts of everyone else, they simply couldn't get past him. Taylor Gray easily kept the lead and cruised to an easy victory in the Star Nursery 150. 71 gets a win. I believe, is that the first ever win for the number 71 in the Winston ARCA K&N West Series? I know that number has not been run very often, so I want to know, is that the very first win for that number for as long as this series has been around? If one of you guys could look that up, that'd be great, but I would have to believe that that might be the first win for that number, because that's one of those numbers you don't see very often. Maybe Eddie McDonald, but Eddie McDonald, you know, he ran 71. He was wasn't he an E Series driver? Eddie was an E Series driver, wasn't a West Series driver. I want to believe it might be the first win, but I could be wrong on that. So don't quote me on that. But yeah, so Taylor Gray wins. Andres Perez de Lara finishes second. Very impressive run tonight. DGR gets the full big money bonus. Landon Lewis finishes third. Shout out to Kyle Keller and that team finishing fourth. Great run for that organization, Jerry Pitts Racing. Buddy Shepard finishes fifth. Great run for that team. Tanner Reff down in sixth. Bradley Erickson with a solid seventh place finish. And Jake Drew, probably the most surprising finish of the day, Jake Drew down in eighth. Very unexpected, and one of the worst seasons for Jake Drew this season, which in a way is a compliment when one of your worst finishes of the season is eighth. Jacob Smith was ninth. Todd Souza was 10th. Joey East was down in 11th. Bridget Burgess with a very solid finish in 12th. Eric Red in 13th. Colmore was down in 14th. Nick Jonades was 15th. Vince Little down in 16th. Sarah Burgess ended up 17th. David Smith was 19th. Amber Slagle was 20th. Those were the cars that finished the race. Tyler Reff, RJ Smotherman, Kate Hedinger, Chris Loudon, Sean Hingarani, and Andrew Tuttle were our DNFs. In terms of this race, you know, I don't know how to call it. You know, these races where you do see flag-to-flag dominations, you could call it boring. But I do say we saw plenty of great action in the back of the field that would warrant this race, I think, to be a success. Excuse me there, guys. We got a cold going around this area here in Iowa, so I'm trying my best not to catch it. But yeah, I thought the race was good. I'm not going to say it was bad. I want to give it a rate out of 10. Honest, I'll give it a 6.5. And I think the only reason why I grade it so low is just because, and I mean, that's still above average. If you rate out of 10, 5 is average. I give it a 6.5 because despite, you know, what we saw up front with, you know, not much competition for the lead, we still saw plenty of racing throughout the field. And I'll still say it provided some great entertainment, some great moments. And obviously seeing the mother and daughter combination, I felt like is what really sold this race for me. And whether it was going to be great or not great, that's what I was looking forward to seeing the most was the mother-daughter combination racing against each other. Again, I just wish NASCAR would have put more of that out there. And I know Lionel Racing wouldn't do it, but, you know, Lionel Racing doesn't make many diecasts for lower teams. But if you really wanted to do something special for the ARCA series, and I think it would sell a lot more than people think it would, do a mother-daughter combination double diecast. The 88 of Bridget Burgess and the 97 of Sarah Burgess. I would be shocked if people would not be interested in something like that. Because number one, both cars are really cool looking cars. The blue and white of Sarah's car and the blue, orange, and black and white of Bridget's car, they're good looking cars. Now, you don't even have to offer that in a 1/24 scale version. You could easily offer that in a 1/64 scale version. You can't tell me that people wouldn't buy that. I would. I'd buy like 4. I know everybody who watches this show would at least buy one, and you can't tell me that everyone would buy that. So, again, it's those little missed opportunities, I feel like, is what's holding this series back. You know, I'm not saying that every ARCA team should get a diecast, but would it be so hard for Lionel to produce like Venturini 1/64ths? Why couldn't Jesse Love get a 1/64th of his Yahoo car? Why couldn't Sammy Smith get a 1/64th of his TMC 18 car? And like in this, why can't we get Sunrise cars? Why can't we get McAnally Napa cars? They're already making 1,500 Chase Elliott's. What's the difference with making another Napa car? So I don't know. I feel like they're leaving a lot of money on the table by not doing something like that. You know? I don't know. Then that's just kind of me ranting. You know, and same. Why can't I get a Brad Smith diecast? Oh, I love it. But you guys know what I mean. I feel like there's a lot of money being left on the table for what Bridget and Sarah did in this occasion. And I just think, you know, having that would be such a cool diecast memento of that race. You know, some of those custom diecast builders are going to build them. I know they will, but I just feel like Lionel is really leaving a lot of money on the table by not doing that, because I know that would be a very, very popular seller. But yeah, the ARCA race in general, like I said, it was okay. Some great underdog runs with Kyle Keller getting a top 10, Bradley Erickson getting a top 10, Jacob Smith getting a top 10, the Jerry Pitts cars, 2 of them in the top 10. Very great to see. Our point standings after this race, Jake Drew. Not much to say, but Jake Drew is your 2022 ARCA Menard Series West champion with a 56-point lead coming out of that race, a very huge margin. The most you can earn in a ARCA West sanctioned event is 49 points. So no matter how big of a field we have for Phoenix, pretty much all Jake Drew has to do is take the green flag, and he will be the champion. And rightfully so. A very dominating season by him and Sunrise Ford Racing, along with Tanner Reff winning over half the season's races. So definitely vindication from last year. Definitely vindication from last year, where they lost the championship literally on the last lap due to their teammate nonetheless. So I think that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. You know, the ARCA teams have to submit it to Lionel. They don't just do it themselves. I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, I just feel like they're just missing that. You can't tell me, like, Molten Rage, I know you got to agree with me, man. Like, you're just – I know they would submit it. I know it would take some time for it to get approved. Maybe the sponsors wouldn't be on board, but that would be just so cool to see a mother-daughter combination double diecast. And, like, everyone can be signed by both of them. You can't tell me that wouldn't work. It would. No. Yeah, you know, I mean, I know. I agree with you, Molten. We want to see more ARCA diecast. It's just, I agree that unfortunately the market just isn't there. It's rough being a diecast collector and not seeing the cars you want to see get made, not get made. Meanwhile, we see another Chase Elliott diecast get made. But yeah, so Jake Drew is going to win the championship, but that still doesn't mean the championship battle is over for everybody else in the field. Tanner Reff, 56 points behind in second, is just 1 point ahead of Cole Moore and only 10 points ahead of Todd Souza. So the second through fourth can easily change going into Phoenix. Todd Souza's kind of stuck in his not Todd Souza. Joey East is kind of stuck in his own position in fifth. Takuma is only 5 points ahead of Bridget for sixth, so they're going to be in their own battle. Landon Lewis, unfortunately missing the first 3 races of the season, or 3 of the 10 races this season, I mean. Even despite the win and the great runs he's had, still 230 points out. Andrew Tuttle's in 9th, and PJ Pedroncelli is down in 10th, even though he will not be at any of the races following the season. Obviously, no real plans to talk about for 2023 ARCA yet. But I will say for Phoenix, we are definitely looking at a big field. No entry list as of yet, of course. It's going to be a while, long time. This is going to be a big wait for us. I know Andy Hillenberg will be there. Venerini will be there. Brad Smith will not. Peterson will not. I don't believe Alex Clubb will. I don't think they will be there. I think Amber Balkin's team might run. The 30 team might run that race. Who else? I don't know. I don't know the full logistics of that entry list, but it's going to be quite a few cars. I can definitely say it'll be quite a few cars. I don't think it's going to be 40. My prediction's around 35 to 38 cars for that race. Definitely a very, very big field of cars. And I think it's going to be a very fun race. For the Joe Gibbs team or Kyle Busch Motorsports team, I don't see Bruce Cook's team. Yeah, the Bruce Cook's team will be there for sure. I don't see the KBM team running, mainly because I believe Sammy Smith is actually scheduled to run the 18 car at that race. So I don't know. I don't think they would want him to run the ARCA car. They would want him to focus on that car. So I don't know if he will be running that car. Although I think that would be a great send-off for that team, because there's still no plan right now if Kyle Busch Motorsports will be back next season in the ARCA series, as KBM is now switching to switching to Chevrolet. But either way, that Phoenix race is going to be fun for sure. And yeah, I mean, it's again, guys. We'll just have to see. If you guys want to check out the entry blank, it is on the ARCA West competitor site page. You guys can check that out. We kind of reached the end of this portion of the show. GMS could be there with Dye. Yes, I would expect them to be there with Daniel Dye. Maybe even another truck driver. I could maybe see Jack Wood also running there as well. Maybe doing the double. And GMS, speaking of GMS, I don't want to say they've kind of given it away, but they really hinted at, another driver announcement coming up. And I almost feel like it's in plain sight. It's got to be Colby Howard. Colby Howard, in my opinion, would be the perfect car there, because he literally was at the fan fest for Richard Petty. Why would a guy driving for Bill McNally be at a Richard Petty fan fest if he wasn't going to be driving for him? So I feel like they've kind of already given it away that it might be Colby Howard. But yeah, that's just kind of a rant right there. But anyway, guys, that race is going to be fun. No ARCA podcast next week. Backmarker Battles will be taking over for next week's show. But obviously, we will do our preview show for the championship race at Phoenix, and then, of course, the review. But before you guys go, I do want to announce our next giveaway. It's not a very big prize, but I think it's definitely a very popular prize. And ironically enough, this does have to deal with Molten Rage in the comments section. The reason why I say a lot of ARCA teams deserve diecasts is because a lot of them run very fire paint schemes. And we might be pretty far away from it, but for everyone who watches this podcast, I want to let you guys know, when we reach 1,000 subs, we are giving away, in my opinion, I have it right here in my hand, one of the most coolest promo diecasts I feel like that has been ever released. And it's very hard to find. Thankfully, I was able to get in touch with Takuma Koga's PR team, and they were able to send me this. It is a officially licensed Takuma Koga number 7 Rise Up Toyota. I believe is actually from 2021. And I believe they only sold these, I think, in Japan or something like that. And this could be one of your guys's. This will be our 1,000 subscriber giveaway prize. The rules, all you have to do is simply subscribe to the channel. Of course, leave a like on all the videos. You guys know that. But it's simply to subscribe to the channel. And this one lucky subscriber will win this limited edition diecast that is extremely hard to find. There's a couple on eBay, but they're like $150. But if you guys want to have a chance to win this Takuma Koga diecast, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel. And once we reach 1,000, we will have a big 1,000 subscriber, live stream, and I will pick a subscriber live on air, and they will win this Takuma Koga diecast. So all I can say is good luck. And yeah, I want to give this car away as a sign of my appreciation to you guys and to get Takuma out there. I love Takuma. I'm one of his biggest fans. And shout out to Takuma Koga and his PR team for sending me this for my birthday. A couple of them for my birthday earlier this year. So yeah, to end that show, enter the contest. It's that simple. Subscribe to the channel, and you could have a Takuma Koga diecast. Hopefully we'll get there before Christmas, but no, not for sure. Anyway, guys, that actually will conclude tonight's episode of the ARCA Racing Podcast. I have been your host, Colby Evans, a.k.a. Starting Park Car. You guys know the drill with the contest and Twitter and all that fun stuff. And we will catch you tomorrow for Backmarker Battles. We'll be going over the Xfinity and Truck Race and their bonuses for Homestead and the Cup Race bonuses as well. And as for next week, we will just be doing Backmarker Battles in general because ARCA will be taking an off week. Till then, see you guys next time. Signing off, Colby Evans. Bye-bye.